just finished my house chores, so we can check what's new in the game dev world. What? No way. Give me a second. Much better.
Wait, don't tell me.
Back it up.
Huh?
Back it up.
Right, back it up.
Back it up.
Okay.
Shift into reverse.
Unity.
We did it, Patrick! We saved the city!
Unbelievable. Well, I didn't expect this kind of news. But anyway, hello and welcome everyone. My name is Simon, and in today's video, I will continue the topic mentioned in the previous one. That is, making video games. Today, we will focus on the most important aspect of game creation, planning. And the Polish word for this is planowanie. Most of the people who start the journey through game dev or any domain related to software development or digital creation omit this step and jump straight to implementation and creation aspects. Sooner or later, you're gonna be forced to plan your future work, whether you like it or not. Mostly because you don't have a time to finish your project in one go. Or you come up with something new and you rush to implement it, ignoring the core aspects of your project and at the end abandoning it. I am telling you this because this affected me also, and I want to warn you about the consequences of lacking any kind of plan. That is why we will focus on this aspect in today's video. So, after this brief introduction, let's see what awaits us next. In the next video, I will try to cover following topics: habits that I had and have related to game dev, how I am going to change them using planning in order to make more stuff, especially video games, introduction of my game ideas I want to implement in the next few years, and explanation on what DDD is, and a presentation of my approach to it. I think this should be enough for today. So let's go into the next chapter. My habits. Yep. Not quite impressive, I would say. So how did I approach game dev? I started like most people, doing tutorials. And I did a lot of them. Not only related to implementing game mechanics, but also doing some 3D stuff. Modeling, rigging, animation. I also had a music creation and so on. After a while, I learned that I've been stuck in so-called tutorial hell. It's a situation when you do tutorial after tutorial, you gain more knowledge and skills, but you're too afraid to implement them in your own projects. I started looking for another solution to push myself further in my game dev journey. After a while, I decided to participate in a local game jam called Crack Jam 2023. For those who don't know, game jams are events that focus on making video games in a very short period of time. There are online and offline jams, like the one I participated in. You can make games solo, or you can team up with other people. And the crucial aspect of the game jam is that your game needs to reflect the topic that is announced at the beginning of the event. I went to Crack Jam, I met some people, I joined the team, and we have created a game. Or so I thought. It was working on my laptop, but for anyone else, it didn't. At least it didn't work as intended. But one project I finished, still one for me. Participation in that game jam gave me a boost and inspiration. I wanted to join other jams, but I had to do other stuff and I didn't have time to sit and participate. I was just too tired. The last attempt to establish a proper habit was making small and complete projects. I started by making 2.5D platformer game along the lines of Mario and Donkey Kong. And surprisingly, I managed to finish this one. And only this one. Because during the work on the second project, I somehow lost my motivation. In the meantime, I attended additional events and conventions and LARPs, and this greatly exhausted me because I am not a social person as other people think. And that's how I ended up here, making video about it and trying to push myself again. Or I would say, kickstart my motivation and keep momentum. As you previously saw, these endeavors weren't as fruitful as I was hoping for. In addition to this, I picked up other things like learning how to make music using digital audio workstation and how to play on keyboard, trekking trips to Tatra Mountains nearly each weekend, doing a lot of exercises and training myself for a marathon run, learning Japanese language, learning how to draw using digital tablet, and the most recent one, assembling Gundam models. So yeah, there's a lot of things I do, but it won't stop me from my game dev journey. How do I plan to break the curse of unfinished projects and lost motivation? By sharing my struggles with the internet, making video at least one each month, and I hope this will give me the necessary boost to gain the pace and momentum as I will work for a few hours every day and share my results. Now we can jump into next chapter and see the details of my great plan. The plan I want to bring to life is to make 4 video games, and I want to finish them in a span of 3 years. I know this schedule is very tight, but I hope by having precise milestones on the horizon, I am going to change my current way of working and complete as much as possible. Some people may ask why I force myself to make complete games, and the reason is simple. By making as a habit, I will ensure that I can manage to do such things like simple video games, and later on set myself a more ambitious goal, like making a full-fledged story game, or even more, a proper action RPG game. I was thinking what type of games I want to implement in order to efficiently gain more experience and gradually learn more about the tools I want to use. So I came up with the following: Space Invaders inspired game, 3D platformer, arcade racing game, and survival game. From the perspective of complexity and objectives, as a beginner game dev, we start from the easiest idea to the most complex one. This should help me and others earn more confidence in our ideas and proficiency in using tools to our advantage. Now about the first game. The main goals of creating Space Invader clone are getting used to tools and establishing habits that in the future can be adjusted. Why getting used to tools? Most beginners either are stuck in the tutorial hell and don't get confident using tools that they want to harness, or jump straight into deep water by making their dream game, struggling a lot, quickly losing motivation, and at the end quitting game dev completely. The easiest way to break this curse is to just recreate game ideas. The suggestion is to choose a very simple one, like 3D platformer, Space Invaders, game of tanks, or even a ping pong. But there's one thing to keep in mind. You should not use any tutorial as a base for it. You should take an experimental approach, poking around the tools, nudging and tweaking, and most important one, recreating the ideas on your own. And if you're stuck, you can use very particular guides and tutorials, like how to unlock the passages using buttons, or how to save and load particular part of the game, or how to add customizations, etc. By doing so, you will unknowingly force yourself to learn more about the tools you're using. For example, the infamous Blender shortcuts. First goal is related to the second one, establishing habits. During game dev journey, especially as a solo dev, you're going to do a lot of things, like making documentation, planning your workday, establishing goals and tasks, creating game mechanics, creating user interface, making art for your project, making sound and music, a lot of things. And sooner or later, you will have to create a system of habits that will help you automate tasks, or at least automate the execution of tasks. Habits will help you organize your project, establish priorities, and if you're more confident, you will be able to outsource these priorities to other people. This will lead to overall production process and project planning. So there's a lot of things to learn, even with the simplest project. After having my great plan explained, now it's time for some details of the first project and the introduction of GDD. Infamous GDD, or game design document. Something that not all people like, but it's necessary, especially in a very big project. I would even say that document related things are hated by people who just want to make stuff. If you have worked or are currently working in IT related industry like me, you probably know similar documents like project architecture, ports and protocols, requirements gathering, security assessment records, etc., etc. And for most people, these names tell nothing, and I understand, because most documentation I have seen so far did not tell me very much. But why do we make this stuff in the first place? One of the most important reasons is to have a record of any idea for a given project. If you have everything in your mind and you work on your project consistently, it's not a big deal, but later on you will have to stop work in order to do other stuff, or you will have to postpone your project for a longer period of time, and in most cases your project grows significantly. So it's natural that you will forget stuff, either willingly or unconsciously. So to make the very first good habit, we will create our own game design document. Game design document, or GDD, is the very core of most projects. Reference for all teams that work on one monumental game. It contains the very aspect of it, from inspiration through core mechanics and art up to marketing. And one of the things very characteristic of it is that it is constantly changing. It is adapted by the same teams that use it as a reference to inform others that some aspect of the game will be changed, will be reduced, or extended. In our case, this document will function as a chalkboard for our ideas, at least for this one. Now that we know what GDD is, it is time to make one. But how do we do it, you might ask? I have seen a lot of videos related to this aspect that showed real life examples, but one approach came to my mind. Some time ago, I've been watching Punch a Bunch devlogs by Pontypants, and I saw the promotion of very interesting tool called Millinode. It is used to make documents, notes, graphs, etc. I've seen many people used it as a tool to create game design documentation. So I tried it and I came up with this. So right now you can see my YouTube Games project that contains 4 boards for each game idea that I want to create. And arrows suggest that that's how we will gradually go from project to project in order to gain more knowledge and sufficiency in our tools. So we have a first project called Project Space Invaders Italy, and I'll try to explain it why I named it like this. So first of all, you see 5 tabs. You have inspiration, story, mechanics, art, music, and tools. I made the split like this because I think that it's sufficient for now. Later on we will just modify it. Okay, so we go to inspiration tab, and in mood board we have something like this. So when it comes to Space Invaders, it is a shoot 'em up type of game. So as an inspiration right now, I chose Space Invaders and Super Bit Blaster because these look very old. The one is very old, but the second one is very new, but it has the old game aesthetics. The other inspiration I would say is Chicken Invaders. Why? Because I played a lot during elementary and junior high school times with the friends. So I know that it plays similar to Space Invaders, so I want to have this as a anchor for my twist to my game somehow. We will see how it works. We have Don Don Pachi Maximum and the other version of the Don Don Pachi. These are very popular games, at least on the East from what I saw. So we will take some aspect of these games for sure. When it comes to story, I made the split. We have Italian aspect and plot aspect of the story. We have Italian aspect because I particularly been playing Pizza Tower for some time, and somehow it triggered me to make Italian cook character as the main character of this game. So that's why I chose this split. When it comes to plot aspect, I focused on the stealings aspect. In SpongeBob SquarePants, you have Mr. Krabs, you have Plankton, and Krabby Patty recipe. Plankton tries to steal, and he fails again and again and again. So I wanted to incorporate this, and when it comes to Spyro, especially at the 2 later games, there's the aspect of stealing the eggs, dragon eggs, that Spyro needs to retrieve from other worlds in order to fix everything. So that's why I use these as an inspiration for the stealing aspect of the story. Okay, so this is explained. When it comes to game asset inspiration, right now it's like a draft that will contain inspirations for some game elements like enemies, characters, weapons, planes. This will be filled gradually later on at a time. Okay, so we have inspiration. Right now we will jump to the story. And what is the story about? So I wrote the very quick story, like some point. So we have a cook, the character name Cambolesso Sfortunino Graziano Santa Rosa. I don't know, I just saw that Italians sometimes have very long names, so I tried to make my character have one long name. So that's what I came up with. Our cook has a very famous pizzeria that this cook makes very famous pizza that is based on a recipe that he inherited from his father, that later on has been stolen by some organization. Right now I don't have any idea for this organization. We will fill out later. He gives chase after them, but he doesn't manage to catch them. So because they jumped into the plane and they fly away, so he goes back to his place and he takes his father's plane and he goes back again after them. So that's how the story is constructed for now, and I'm sure that it will be modified sooner or later just to fit some other things in our project. Okay, so we have a game mechanics tab right now, and the game mechanics is split into 2 documents. We have core mechanics and additional mechanics. Core mechanics, they need to be in the game in order to contain the Space Invaders aspect and a little bit of twist, and additional mechanics can be added later if we will have enough time. So when it comes to core mechanics, we have something like moving the plane, we have basic enemies. I added enemies waves because in Space Invaders, Chicken Invaders, you have something like this. So you have the enemy of waves, particular, you have timed enemy wave, and I would say that's it, like that's the differentiation. When it comes to mini bosses, for sure, we have some levels, and after a few levels you stumble upon the mini boss that you have to defeat. To encourage player to play it more, I want to implement the points counter and use it to create a scoreboard. So for example, when the player plays with himself or with the others, he can see himself in the scoreboard. With that, we need to create, for example, basic mini menu for sure, just to let people quit the game, because sometimes people don't provide it and they need to Alt plus F4 in order to quit the game. So basic menu that will contain volume control, quality control, that is graphics and resolution, control, bind controls for people who want to modify their binding when it comes to this type of game, because some people either play on our arrows or WASD, it depends, and the basic save load and reset progress mechanic, just to reset the levels, for example, if you want to play it again. In additional mechanics, I right now put it lives, power-ups, more enemy types, and difficulty level. So okay, we have additional mechanics. Now we go to the art, music, and sound effects. The art concept, the structure is the same as the game asset inspiration, and right now it doesn't contain much, like the same split, because I didn't want to focus on creating any concept art right now. We will do it later when the project will have at least one game mechanic that will allow us to put some animations, for example. This is just created as a placeholder that will be filled up later. And we have tools, and right now I created this structure in order to represent each aspect of the game and what type of tools I want to use. So when it comes to coding, I want to use Unreal Engine and blueprints. Why? Because I've been using Unreal Engine for 2 years, I would say, and I made 2 games that I have mentioned previously, and I wanted to push myself further to learn more about this engine, especially after recent changes provided, for example, Nanite system and Lumen system. So we will see if I manage to learn this later on. When it comes to coding aspect, particularly blueprints, why? First of all, this is a simple project. So to not scare people away, I wanted to use it because this is very beginner friendly, and you don't need to have in the back of your mind many aspects when it comes to coding, when you do the code in C++, for example. You don't have to worry about this here, but you just need to know that if you want to be efficient in your code, or you want to optimize it as best you can do, it is better to use C++, but we will do it later on. When it comes to 3D art, I wanted to use the Blender as Substance Painter. I'm not sure I'm gonna use Substance Painter, but we will see. Blender for 3D models, and because I have experience in it. Even though I made some basic things, learned some basic rigging and animation, we can just expand this knowledge with this project. Second of all, I've been using this for many of things, like for the thumbnail of this video and background of my channel. So that's why I'm using the Blender. Substance Painter, I want to use it to texture the models later on, but I'm not sure if I'm gonna be able to do it, or if other people won't be able to use it because this is a paid tool. I will just try to use the Blender. Here we have time and task organization. I will use Trello, although in the work I use different tools, but Trello, because if you don't have many projects, you can use it for free. But if you want to like add some functionalities, you will have to pay it anyway. If I remember, this is monthly subscription for it. We will try to use it in a basic level. Next is music and sound effects. Right now I chose the FL Studio, although there are other digital audio workspaces like Ableton and Reaper. It will depend if people want to use this tool or not. FL Studio is similar to Substance Painter. That is, you have to, if you want to use more functions of this tool, you need to pay for the license. It's better deal with this when you pay for this license, because you have perpetual license, so you have support for like eternity, or if the company doesn't change the policy. It depends. I plan to use it. If not, we can jump into Reaper and we will try to learn how to use Reaper to make the music. Okay, so we have the last thing, VFX and 2D art. When it comes to visual effects, Niagara system, built-in system like the Blueprint system and other system like Metasound, natively supported by Unreal Engine. The only con you can see is that it is not intuitive, especially when you learn Blueprints and later on you jump into Niagara system. Then you can just hit the wall for a short period of time, at least, when you try to figure out how to add new effects to VFX. That is the only con I would say that is worth mentioning. When it comes to Krita, similar to Blender, it is free and open source. The only con I would say is that because it's free open source and it's not as popular as Blender when it comes to this aspect, it lags behind other companies that provide similar tools like Clip Studio Art, where you have the marketplace for the brushes and paper types and other stuff. When you try to recreate something that was made in paid tools, you will have a hard time to do it. Either you will have to really spend a lot of time on it, or you need to find another way to recreate the same effect. This is all when it comes to tools I want to use, and I would say that's all when it comes to this game design document for now, because later on we will either way modify it. For sure, story will be modified, maybe some inspiration will be added, especially for the assets. Game mechanics can be changed. We will fill up music concept and sound effects concept. For sure, that's how it looks right now, and if you want to, you can make it like this, or you can make something similar. In the next chapter, I want to do a simple task. Create a game project and configure it. It is a simple task, but I want to show you the options you can change in order to prepare your project and ease the work as much as possible. In addition, I want to show you how to incorporate the Git versioning tool and use it to your own advantage. A lot of things to learn and explain, and it is time for me to finish my Gundam model I have built a long time ago. Those pesky decals won't put themselves, and my Gundam model backlog grew again. But it is opportunity for an extra content, so stay tuned. And now it's time for me to put those decals. Thanks a lot for sticking with me. I hope you liked this video. If you're interested in the future content, hit the subscribe button and bell icon for future notifications. That's all for me. Thanks a lot again, and I hope to see you again in the future. Bye bye! Do zobaczenia!